It's still flashing mute.
Hello. Fix it.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Chaim talmidim. It's a big schus for me. I'm also humbled to be able to stand there before you and to share with you some of my zechrenes and experiences of spending time with the Rebbe throughout Tishrei. Now, like many of you, I did not grow up in Crown Heights in New York, next to the Rebbe, near the Rebbe, the Kashmirs. I grew up in Miami Beach. Nevertheless, we used to travel to New York, my whole family, usually for Sukkos, and then in some years just for Simchas Torah. And I can tell you that the highlight of our year as kids growing up in Miami, that was what we were waiting for, was to be able to travel Tishrei to New York to the Rebbe. It gave us literally chayes for the rest of the year, being away from the Rebbe. It's true we were able to see the Rebbe on the Fabrengens, through the cable television, we were able to watch the Fabrengens and hear the Sikhs, etc. But there's nothing like being mamish together with the Rebbe Begashmis. So I want to go through some of the my memories, my chayes and experiences that I had b'shaitoi in those years. I was zeichet to be by the Rebbe Simchas Torah, every single Simchas Torah from the year Tovshin Mem Aleph. But we were already in New York, as you'll see soon in the picture, earlier in the Lamed as well, sometimes even for Yom Kippur and from Sukkos. So I just want to share with you some of the Seder and Yomim of what happened and took place, beginning from Erev Yom Kippur, and hopefully we'll go through Simchas Torah. We'll have to speak fast about some of the days, and we'll focus on some specific days and happenings. Obviously, Erev Yom Kippur began in the morning, with Kapparos, where the Rebbe would come outside with his chicken. The Rebbe would make Kapparos in his room, so only Maskiris or whoever was there with the Rebbe when the Rebbe actually shlog Kapparos. And the Rebbe would carry the chicken outside. Many years it was done in the Sukkot. There are pictures and videos of the Rebbe going into the Sukkot, which the Sukkot was already up in the Chotzot of 770. The Sukkot was already up before Yom Kippur, as it is up today. If you drive by 770, you'll see the walls of the Sukkot up today. And the Rebbe would take the chicken to the Sheikhet, and the Sheikhet, Rav Yisrael Shimon Kalmanson, would check the chicken for the Rebbe. Then he would give the Rebbe on a board or something, on a plate, the dam, and the Rebbe would be mekayim the mitzvah of kisui hadam. In the later years, actually, Kapparos was done not in the Sukkot, but right in front of 770. The Rebbe came out in front of 770, and right there is where they did the shchita of Kapparos. Then the Rebbe would come down to daven shachris. Now, for many years until Tavshin Mem Ches, the Rebbe would not daven shachris with the oilam, with a minyan, only on special days of the year. One of those special days was Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would daven shachris. I also know it because my Zayda, Lulav and Esrog, Rabbi Shapiro, the Shapiros, they have yortzeit Erev Yom Kippur, so he was the chazan always Erev Yom Kippur to shachris. If you'll notice in this picture I believe is Tovshin Lamed Zayin or Tovshin Lamed Ches. After shachris, the Rebbe would give lekach. This is a minig that we ask for lekach on Erev Yom Kippur, and the Rebbe would give out lekach to all the chassidim on Erev Yom Kippur, which was took a long time. In the later years, the Rebbe started a few days earlier, but generally Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe gave lekach. You see in the picture there, this is Tovshin Lamed Zayin or Tovshin Lamed Ches. I'm the first child, the first kid. That's me. I remember this. I remember getting lekach from the Rebbe at this occasion, standing there with my brother, who's behind me, and my father, and behind him is one of my uncles. So this is many, many years ago, and I was zeicha then to get to receive lekach from the Rebbe. After lekach, everybody went home to eat the first suda, and then the Rebbe came down to mincha. Now, something was very special about this mincha on Erev Yom Kippur. There's a minig Yisrael to give tzedakah on Erev Yom Kippur. Now, can you imagine if you go to any shul and Erev Yom Kippur, there are these plates and buckets and baskets for people, all different mosques and institutions to give tzedakah. Now, in 770, the Rebbe would come down. There were literally tens, maybe 100 or more of these little plates and buckets on the table in the back of 770. And before mincha, everybody would come with coins and would try to give as many the tzedakah boxes, tzedakah buckets that you were able to give. But the Rebbe would put tzedakah in every single one on Erev Yom Kippur. The Rebbe used to give tzedakah many times to the kindalach to put into one of the pushkas, but here the Rebbe would give every single one. So the Rebbe would start in the back of the shul. The Rebbe came with an envelope. You see in the picture, the Rebbe was holding a big envelope with money, and the Rebbe would come and he would stand and he would give tzedakah to every single one. It was a moed de ketzir, the moed de time to watch the Rebbe. Everybody would crowd around the Rebbe as the Rebbe would walk slowly. It took the Rebbe sometimes a half an hour to get to his place or more, because the Rebbe was giving out tzedakah to every single one. Now, Chevra, you have to think about this. Can you imagine you have the sukkos to get one of the Rebbe's coins? So people or Bachrim would watch to see in which pushka the Rebbe put a coin, and we had other coins ready, and we would switch the Rebbe's coin with our coin. If the Rebbe usually put a nickel in, and we would have other nickels ready, and then you have to have a nickel to get the Rebbe's nickel, switch, and then you had one of the Rebbe's nickels. And that's what happened throughout. And it took the Rebbe a long time, and it's a lesson for us also that it's important that when there's a minute to give tzedakah, you can't give one and not the other. You should try to give to every single pushka if possible. The Rebbe went to his place. The Rebbe davened Mincha. After Mincha, the Rebbe used to give a bracha on Erev Yom Kippur to the Chassidim. This bracha, in the earlier years, it was just a bracha mamish for a minute. The Rebbe would get up. You see in this picture, the Rebbe would stand up on steps. They just showed on the Living Torah this week. I think it's Tavshin Chav Ches or Tavshin Chav Tes. The Rebbe would get up. Zayin, I don't remember. The Rebbe would get up. There wasn't even a microphone in many years. And the Rebbe would close his eyes, and the Rebbe would give a bracha to the Chassidim. It's printed. A lot of the Rebbe brachas, the Rebbe was magia, the Rebbe fixed. And the Rebbe would say this bracha. In the later years, the bracha became a sikha. And the sikha sometimes could have been from 20 minutes to an hour. Erev Yom Kippur, an hour. I remember once the sikha was even an hour and a half. Very, very long sikha. Everybody had to run afterwards to eat the Sudan of Sukkos. This was the bracha that the Rebbe gave to the Chassidim. Later, something very special used to take place. Everyone knows that Erev Yom Kippur is Birchas Habonim. Everyone gets a bracha from his father. We say the bracha that every father benches his child, and the famous bracha that parents give their children. And the Rebbe in the early years said, at the Bachrim, you are the Rebbe's kinder. So therefore, the Rebbe is going to bench the Bachrim. So in the earlier years, it was in the Rebbe's room, then I did not happen. But in the later years, it was upstairs in 770. This is a picture which anyone who was zeichet to be there or see this will never forget this. The Rebbe used to come in already dressed Yom Kippur in his talis and his kittel, and they had a little stage in 770 upstairs. Hundreds of Bachrim, could you imagine Bachrim that were living in Crown Heights, and Orchim Bachrim that came, would all come in to hear this sikha. And there wasn't enough room for everybody, so let me tell you how it went. Very interesting. They had a seder. If you were 22 or 23 and up, you were able to be inside the Beis Medrash, inside the Zal. If you were 21, I might be off with the year because I was always underage, so it didn't matter to me. If you were like 21, they would take out in the back wall of 770, the upstairs Zal, there's bookshelves, a shafa. They would take out the whole shafa, and it was open. And in Cheder Sheni, in the small room in the back, you were able to stand there and also see the Rebbe. So 21 and up were able to go into the back room. Everyone else who was even younger had to be in the Chotzer. If you go to the Chotzer of 770 today, you'll see there's a big window where you could see into 770. They would take out that whole window. So it was like an opening, mamish, a whole square opening to be able to see the Rebbe by the bracha. Bachram would stand online for almost a whole day to be able to get a good place for the Birchas Habonim. In fact, most of the years, when the Rebbe used to say the Sikha here, everyone heard the bracha. Growing up in Miami, we heard the bracha because it was a microphone. And the Rebbe would say the bracha in the microphone. And Gans Lubavitch, there was a hookup all over the world. All Yungelite would hear the Sikha too, but mainly the Bachrim, wherever we were, we felt the Rebbe is benching us out of the Kippur. But after Tavshin Mem Ches, when the Rebbetzin was nostalgic, so they couldn't put a microphone anymore because the Rebbe benched licht. Because after the Rebbetzin nostalgic, the Rebbe used to bench licht. Once the Rebbe benched licht, the Rebbe was mekabel on himself Yom Kippur. So the Rebbe gave the bracha, as you see in this picture, without a microphone. Now you can imagine, just imagine, without a microphone, how much pushing there was by the Birchas Habonim to be able to hear the bracha that the Rebbe is saying to the Bachar. This description, this seer of the Rebbe, there was one other time that I remember during the year that the Rebbe used to hold his talus like that, by Tekiyas Shefer. By Tekiyas Shefer, there's no picture obviously. The Rebbe would say the psukim. You all know the psukim. That nusach that the Rebbe would say that in all the Bible traditions they use. The Rebbe would put his talus over his head, and he would hold the talus. Sometimes he would hold it under the talus, not like this. The Rebbe is holding it like this, under the talus, like this, over his eyes. The Rebbe would stand like this, and he would say the psukim. When the Rebbe gave the bracha to the Bochrim, the Rebbe looked the same way, and Kippur also. The Rebbe held the talus over his eyes the same way the Rebbe did by Tekiyas. That's how the Rebbe was with the Bochrim. You even see here, the Rebbe covered his eyes with the talus. It was such a special, such an emotional moment that it's almost impossible to describe. And the Bochrim lived and waited for this moment all year for the Birchas Habonim and Yom Kippur. The Rebbe spoke to the Bochrim. If you take a look, it's important to read those sichos, what the tafkid, what the job of a Bocher is, to sit and learn, Teirim, get a Shemayim, and it's all mentioned in many of those sichos. Sometimes it was shorter, sometimes it was longer. In the earlier years, it was so early, they sometimes had it even typed up before Yom Kippur. The Rebbe used to come out an hour sometimes before this man for the Birchas Habonim. Straight from Birchas Habonim, the Rebbe would go downstairs, straight to Kol Nidre, straight to Shul for Davening, for Kol Nidre for Ma'ariv. Straight from Birchas Habonim. So the Bochrim had to all, sometimes the Bochrim would stay and do Chazorah quickly, and then they would go downstairs for Kol Nidre. The Rebbe came down for Kol Nidre, it was Ma'ariv, and after Ma'ariv, the Seder by the Rebbe was, the Shul would say the whole Tillim, B'tzibur. The Chazan would go over and say the whole Tillim, and the Rebbe stayed for that. I myself remember, the last 2 years that I was Zocher to be there in Tovshin and Aleph and Tovshin and Beis, when the Chazan finished Tillim, usually the Rebbe would leave and go upstairs to his room. Even if the Rebbe didn't finish Tillim yet, finished upstairs in his room. But Tovshin and Aleph and Tovshin and Beis, the Chazan finished Tillim, and the Rebbe stayed in his place. The Rebbe stayed for another 20 minutes to half an hour. The Rebbe just sat there. Nobody left, obviously. And the Rebbe stayed till he finished the whole Tillim on Yom Kippur after Ma'ariv. The Rebbe went to his room, and the next morning, the Rebbe would come down to Shachris. Now on Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would wear, by the Tekiyas Shefer, the Rebbe had a red handkerchief. I think it's from the Rebbe Rashab, the Marash, from the Rebbeim, actually. I don't even know. It could be some, someone will correct me soon. The Rebbe had this red handkerchief that he used to use by Tekiyas Shefer. And Yom Kippur, the Rebbe wore it. The Rebbe wore it like a scarf. I myself saw it many times. It was sticking out. The Rebbe used to try to hide it inside. But sometimes we're able to see it was sticking out with a red handkerchief that the Rebbe would wear from the Rabbi, from the previous Rabbi on Yom Kippur. And I believe that the kittel was from the Rebbe Rashab. Someone once told me he saw that it had the initials SS, which is Shalom Shneyasim, on the Rebbe's kittel. The Rebbe had a kittel from the Rebbe Rashab. It was also a short kittel. The Rebbe would come down to davening. When the Rebbe did koidim, I was never zoich to see koidim. I'll tell you the truth. Everybody would jump up to be able to see the Rebbe by koidim. I'm sure many other people have seen it. I was never zoich to see it, but the Rebbe would koidim, daven with the minyan, the koidim, and the Rebbe would leave. And the Rebbe came back also for Menachem. The Rebbe got mafta yena, and everything was leading up to the highlight of the end of Yom Kippur. What was the highlight of the end of Yom Kippur? Napoleon's march. This picture that you see here is Napoleon's march in the later years. We also know Napoleon's march in the middle of Kaddish, before we said Hoshana Rabbah, Yerushalayim, after we said Hashem Wall, they keep 7 times. It's the highest moment, the end of Yom Kippur, the end of Ne'ilah. By Chassidim, we finish Yom Kippur with our Traskun Ashturim, with the march, Napoleon's march. So for many years, the Rebbe would actually stand up on his chair, and dance Napoleon's march. I was zecher to be one Yom Kippur, days I think, the last year the Rebbe was on his chair, and I was zecher to see the Rebbe get up on his chair. I still remember as a kid, the Rebbe got up on his chair and it was extremely lebedik. It became not so safe, so they built these steps, and the Rebbe would go up on these steps. The Rebbe would first stand by his place and make with his hand by his place. Then the Rebbe would turn around, go up on the steps, pull his talus over his face, all the way over his face, and the Rebbe would make lebedik like Simchas Torah and sometimes even more for Napoleon's march. And it went sometimes for a long time. And this is the whole 770 at the end of Yom Kippur, after the Tanis, it's indescribable of how the Rebbe and how lebedik the Rebbe was. Then they said the Hoshana Rabbah Shalayim, they blew Tkiyas Shefer, and then there was Ma'ariv, Kiddush Levana. You see many times the pictures was Kiddush Levana, and sometimes the Rebbe would announce Lech Lechel B'Simcha Lachmecha, everyone should go eat B'Simcha. The Rebbe said Yom Tov. Interesting to know. After Ma'ariv Motzi Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would say Yom Tov 3 times. Motzi Yom Kippur is a Yom Tov, and everyone would go home to eat. We'll skip quickly now to Erev Sukkos. Now, the truth is that I wasn't many years in Kippur by the Rebbe. Once I was in Yeshiva, I was always in Kippur by the Rebbe. But coming from Miami, Sukkos was the Yom Tov I was always there. So Tishrei for me always started with Sukkos. So Erev Sukkos, the Rebbe would see this picture. The Rebbe would choose for himself Daled Minim. Rebbe Lulav and Esrog, obviously. The Chassidim who used to have the Sukkos to bring the Rebbe, the Lulav and the Esrog, Adasim and the Rabbos would bring it to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would choose. After that, the Rebbe used to give sets of Daled Minim to select special Chassidim. Some Elter Chassidim, as you see in this picture of Mendel Futefas, used to got a Lulav and Esrog from the Rebbe. Also certain Zoiche Begoydel, certain Chassidim that were Zoiche from certain countries to be a Zoiche Begoydel to come to the Rebbe would give. Also certain Maskirim, the Maskirus, would get a Chodos or an Arove. I remember once one of the photographers by the Rebbe, you ever heard of him? Some of you heard of him, his name was Lubavitch. You ever heard of Lubavitch? He was a very lebedik Yid, Shmak Yid. He was a cousin of mine, of the Shapiros, so he stayed by my uncle's house. I used to speak to him, so he came running once with a Chodos. The Rebbe gave him a few times. He was taking pictures there. The Rebbe gave him a Chodos. I think the one year the Rebbe gave him an extra Chodos and told him he should put more than 3 Hadassim. The Rebbe gave him. And the Rebbe used to run that whole thing. If you take a look, it's interesting, the videos, the Rebbe had a list. Who's coming and who's supposed to get a Lulav and Esrog, who's not supposed to get a Lulav and Esrog, who's supposed to get a whole set, not a whole set. And the Rebbe would make sure that every single chassid that was on that list got what he's supposed to. In fact, one of the chassidim from Kfar Chabad was zeicha every year to get a full set of Daled Minim. You know what he did? I'm going to show you what Abbas Yisrael is. He would stand every single day of Sukkos in the Rebbe's Sukkot. After all the chassidim benched on the Rebbe's Esrog, so you bench Lulav on the Rebbe's bench Esrog, you make a bracha, you give the Rebbe Lulav and Esrog a shake. Now what? What are you supposed to do now? You have to do the Nanoim. Where are you going to do the Nanoim? So you have to go schnorr from someone a Lulav and Esrog. You go into the Sukkot, you can't talk, right? And you have to find a Lulav and Esrog to do Nanoim. So this chassid from Kfar Chabad used to stand with a set of Daled Minim. I didn't know who he was. I was a young bachar. And he would be giving out. Everyone would stand after he went online and make Nanoim. And I was always wondering, say the Nui, he's standing for an hour because he can't stop. Everybody's asking him and asking. Till I chabtzed. That's a set of Daled Minim that he got from the Rebbe. And he was mizakeh all the chassidim afterwards with this set of Daled Minim that he got from the Rebbe to be able to do Nanoim on a set of Daled Minim that was the Rebbe's that the Rebbe gave him. In fact, I'm going to tell you something that I did what I wasn't supposed to. We'll jump for a minute to the first days of Sukkos. Yom Tov. The Seder was, the Rebbe would come out, bench his Daled Minim, and then the Rebbe would give the Lulav and Esrog for all the Chassidim to bench. We all know that Meir Harlik Shlita used to stand there with the Lulav and Esrog, and everybody went by and benched. Till when did it go? Till Halal. That was the Seder, till Halal. Then the Meir would bring the Lulav and Esrog down to the Rebbe by Halal. But Chassid didn't make it before. So after davening, the Rebbe would give it again to him. Now most of us bench the Lulav and Esrog before davening. But one year, when I'm Tzoyim, Sukkos in the morning, we had to leave early in the morning before the Rebbe came with Lulav and Esrog. We went to a prison to be Bezaka, the Yidden there with the Simchas Sukkos and also Lulav Daled Minim. So we didn't bench Lulav with the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog in the morning. So we davened, what did we do? We davened till Halal. And we knew we were going to come back. We're going to bench the Rebbe's Esrog. So I came back. Davening was over by the Rebbe. And I walked into the Sukkot, the big Sukkot. The Meir Harlik was standing there and giving to bench the Rebbe's Esrog. But there was a very small line. There was almost nobody there. It was late already. So I took the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog. chutzpah, what I was. And I took the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog, and I didn't give him. I made Nanoim on the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog. He started screaming at me, I'm a chutzpah, what do you mean? You're a little bucket. Who are you to take the Rebbe's Esrog and take the talmidim? I think, Baruch Hashem, I had Sukkos that I ended up taking the Rebbe's Esrog. I just didn't let go. I couldn't let go. There was nobody behind me. And I pushed the Nanoim on the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog. When the Rebbe finished giving out the Lulav and Esrog, one more point. The Rebbe gave a special bracha to every one of the chassidim that he gave a Lulav and Esrog. The bracha was, Mamshich zayin Allah hamshoches al kol Hoshana Rabbah. That's what the Rebbe said. All the hamshoches of the brachas of talmidim on the whole year. It's an interesting story. It's a little bit of a sad story. One of the chassidim went by, the Bzusha Lumovsky in Tovim Zayin, I believe. You can see it on the video. And he walks by the Rebbe. And the Rebbe didn't tell the Mamshich and Allah Hamshoches al kol Hoshana Rabbah. And that year he was nifted. A few days later, actually, Chol HaMoied Sukkos, he was nifted. The Rebbe didn't tell Mamshich and Allah Hamshoches al kol Hoshana Rabbah. After that, the Ziknei Anash and the Rabbonim from Kfar Chabad would present the Rebbe. If you see this picture in the Rebbe's room, and later it was by the Rebbe's door, they would present the Rebbe with Esrogim from Kfar Chabad. And they say that the Rebbe would do Nanuyim also with the Esrogim from Kfar Chabad. And then the Rebbe said a sikh to them. So go back to one of the pictures before, you'll see that they're giving the Rebbe the Esrog from Kfar Chabad. It's after, right here by the Rebbe's door, there's a microphone there. Why is there a microphone there? Because after the Rebbe would give a bracha to the Anoshim Anshe Kfar Chabad, who gave the Rebbe this Esrog. One year, I was zeichet to be there, upstairs on the steps. I was there when the Rebbe was giving out the Lulav and Esrog, and I was there when they presented the Rebbe with the Esrog Kfar Chabad, and I was there by the Sikha. I got in somehow, because you weren't allowed in, it was all locked, and I was zeichet to be there during this time. This was all behind closed doors. Most of the Chassidim could not see this, had no idea what's going on, until the video came out. Weeks later, from Rabbi Chaim Schapiro from WLCC, you were able to see what actually happened at of Sukkos, whatever that year. Otherwise, no one knew what was really going on. Then came the first night of Sukkos. But before that, okay, we had to do everything. The Rebbe gave David asking his Lulav and his Esrog with how many Adasim to make it. He used to make the Rebbe Lulav and Esrog, etc. Then came the first night of Sukkos. Now, the first night of Sukkos, from Tafshim Mem Aleph, the Rebbe said, a Sikhe, every single night of Sukkos. Now, this picture is a very unique picture. You see this picture? What's very special or different about this picture than any other picture that you see of the Rebbe saying a Sikhe? This picture, there's no microphone on the Rebbe stand. Every time you see a picture of the Rebbe saying the Sikhe, there's a microphone on the Rebbe stand. This picture, there's no microphone. This picture is how it looked when the Rebbe said a Sikhe on Sukkot. The reason why there's a picture, because it's Motzei Yom Tov. It's the third night, Motzei Yom Tov. The Rebbe said a Sikhe without a microphone. There was a microphone hidden under because the Rebbe already davened Mayim and said Baruch HaMabdil. You were able to hear a hookup around the world, but in 770, you could not hear the Sikhe. With the microphone, you had to be close to the Rebbe. So if you see how all the Chassidim are crowded around the Rebbe by this stand, this is what it looked like every single night of Yom Tov of Sukkot. And the Rebbe would start off the Sikhe and he would speak about the Ushpizin. It was very, very special. The Rebbe would speak sometimes for an hour and a half. Yom Tov, the first night, before anyone went home to eat Sukkot, eating the Sukkot. And the Rebbe would say a Sikhe and usually explain the Ushpizin. Every single night he explained the Chassidish Ushpizin and the official Ushpizin. And the connection between Avram and the Baal Shem Tov and Yitzchok and the Mezritch Magid, etc., every single night, and also all about Simchas Beis HaSheyeh. On the first night of Sukkot, something else happened, which I was never zeichet to be. You had to be a real mumche to be able to be there. The Orchim who came, where did they eat? Where did they eat the Sudas? They used to eat the Sudas in the Sukkot in 770. They used to bring up food for all the Orchim who came and had nowhere to eat, and they were eating the Sukkot. So before the Suda, after the Sikhe, the Rebbe would go upstairs and say a Sikhe for the Orchim in the Sukkah. Now, how could you be there? If you were by the Sikhe downstairs, then you couldn't be by the Orchim in the Sukkah. So usually the Orchim would miss the Sikhe. They would stay upstairs in the Sukkah waiting for the Rebbe to come. I had some Chavedim that were by the nest. They were able to make a nest and they were able to be by the Sikhe, run out of 770 all the way around and get into the Sukkah to be there when the Rebbe said the bracha to the Orchim. I was never zeichet to do that, But afterwards, the Rebbe would go upstairs and say this bracha. And the next morning was, let me just give you some background how it went. The Arum from benching the Rebbe's Esrog. The first days of Yom Tov, they gave out tickets. Could you imagine literally tickets? You had to come in the morning, early in the morning, and the Vada Masada, the Gaboin, would give you out tickets with numbers. So you don't have to stand online for 2-3 hours, and they would take you by numbers. These numbers and these numbers are going in now. And Yom Tov, the Rebbe would come 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, the Rebbe would come out. The Rebbe would bench Lulav and Esrog. And then the mayor would go in, and he would take the Lulav and Esrog from the Rebbe, and the Chassidim started to bench Lulav and Esrog. Everyone would file by, they would do the numbers, etc. I just want to add one little nekuda to you, that in the later years, if you noticed, they built a little sukkah on the other side where everyone benched. But in the earlier years, before that, they used to bench right next to the Rebbe's sukkah. So I noticed, about 10 minutes after the benching of Lulav and Esrog, the mayor goes back into the Rebbe's sukkah. He knocks on the door, and he opens with his key, and he goes in and closes the door, and he goes into the Rebbe's. What's he do there? No idea. So I asked a few people. I found out that he had the Sukkos. Part of his job of being Mezaki, everyone to bench the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog was he would be Mesad and Mezainis for the Rebbe in the morning in the sukkah. So the Rebbe had Mezainis there, whatever, and drink a tea or something to drink. So he would go back in and he would be Mesad. So I have an opportunity. I could see the Rebbe in the sukkah. So I made myself a shtickle or a chazakah. I used to stand and I would peek into the Rebbe's sukkah when the Mayor Harlock would go back in to bring the Rebbe the Mezainis. So I remember I saw the Rebbe sitting on the sukkah with a sefer. But once this tzir, some people have heard it to me many times, this tzir always stayed in my mind. It was actually raining. It was raining. And the mayor went into the sukkah. And the Rebbe was standing there with Rambam in his hand, standing with Rambam, and he was shuckling, learning Rambam like this. Like, like we all stand and we learn sometimes this way, which you rarely see the Rebbe shuckling like that. I was able to see the Rebbe standing in the sukkah, in the rain, standing and learning Rambam like that. And that tzir always stayed in my mind. This is giving you a chizuk maybe to learn Rambam, say for a mitzvah or something, to be able to join the Rebbe's takana. Something special happened in Tafshin Nun Beis. The year Tafshin Nun Beis, when the mayor went into the Rebbe to take the Lulav and Esrog, the Rebbe didn't give it to him. The Rebbe was standing by the door, and the Rebbe asked him, where does the Ilum bench Lulav and Esrog? And the Rebbe followed the mayor Harlock to the place where the bench Lulav and Esrog. And the Rebbe stood there from the morning, from 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and stood and watched every single chassid who went by bench Lulav and Esrog. Remember, the first day it takes longer. You have to make 2 brachas. You have to make on the Lulav and Shechyon. And the Rebbe stood there. It's almost impossible to describe. It never happened like that. The Rebbe should stand there on his feet from 8:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. All the chassidim went by. In the beginning, there were some chassidim who had no idea that the Rebbe was standing there because there was a big tumult on the other side to get in, and everyone just walked by. And can you imagine? Imagine you walk in, the whole sukkah room is this big. Mamish, there's this little corner. It's placed 4 feet by 4 feet, crammed into this little sukkah. And you walk in, and Mayor Alex there, and the Rebbe is standing right next to him, just standing there by the table. And watching all the chassidim bench Lulav and Esrog. Chol HaMoied, I think the time is running out, so I'm going to conclude the kitzer. Chol HaMoied Sukkos, started mentioning before, the Rebbe used to give the Lulav in the morning. Actually, it was 9 o'clock. Yom Tov was 8 o'clock. Chol HaMoied was 9 o'clock. The Rebbe would come out and bench Lulav and Esrog, and all the chassidim would bench Lulav and Esrog. 10 o'clock, the Rebbe came out the Shachris. When the Rebbe came out the Shachris, so in the Mems, it stopped, the later Mems. But in the Mems, the Rebbe would give tzedakah to the kid a lot. You ever see videos, the Rebbe used to stop and give tzedakah to the kids. So the Rebbe would stop on the way and give tzedakah to the kids. This picture right here, such a tzir. The Rebbe would stand with his talents, no tefillin, and this is Chol HaMoied, Sukkot or Pesach, and the Rebbe would stand and give tzedakah to the kids. Sometimes it took the Rebbe 40 minutes, literally 40 minutes. People didn't believe me when I used to tell my friends that, but on Tishrei with the Rebbe video, you see the clock, they put up on the clock, it's 10:40, the Rebbe is still giving tzedakah. 40 minutes the Rebbe gave tzedakah. I want to share with you one story that some of you have heard from me already, one story that happened with me. I remember I was a kid, it was Chol HaMoied Sukkos, and we were standing around a pushkin. The Rebbe used to give usually the kids around a particular pushkin, middle pushkin, 770, a double pushkin. It was sitting on the table. I'm standing there with all the kids. I can't tell you why this went through my head. I have no idea. But everyone stood with their hand out to the Rebbe. I felt, I don't know why. It's a kid, maybe 10, 11 years old, 9 years old. It's chutzpah. It's chutzpah. I should stand with my hand out to the Rebbe. If the Rebbe wants to give me stock, he'll give me stock. And if he doesn't want, he won't give me stock. Because you see in these pictures, everyone used to stand with their right hand out to get from the Rebbe's stock. I stood there, I didn't stick my hand out, and I didn't get. I felt very bad. So I decided tomorrow, I'm not going to be such a balder cheretz. I'm going to be like everybody else. This is a little kid. I can't tell you why. I'm describing what from head. Tomorrow I'm going to stand with my hand out, and hopefully I'll get stuck in the Rebbe. Usually we used to have prepared also coins to switch. The Rebbe gave you a nickel, so you took a different nickel and put in the pushka, like with the Rebbe's dollars. We used to switch. So I stood there with a bunch of kids, like 30, 40 kids, more. I stood right in the front. I wanted to make sure that I'm going to get. And I stuck my hand out. And one of the first that Rebbe gave me, interestingly, he gave me a quarter. So I felt, maybe the Rebbe already paid me back from yesterday. Instead of a nickel, I got a quarter. This is going through my head. And the Rebbe stands, he continues to give to everybody. He finishes giving everybody, 30, 40 kids, took a few minutes. The Rebbe stops and he turns to me, and he asks me, he asks, did you get it already? So I told the Rebbe, yeah. So I remember going through my head, it's Mistame, the Rebbe saw me standing there yesterday, and I didn't get. And the next day, the Rebbe turned to me and he made sure that I got stuck. I was like, I ran over to my wife. The Rebbe spoke to me, the Rebbe spoke. Yeah, what? So the Rebbe asked me if I got. Okay, big deal. They thought the Rebbe asked me some Shaila and the Mishnayos or something. But to me, very big deal. Little kid. And I was Zeicher, the Rebbe asked me to Shin Gehad. And I answered the Rebbe, yeah. There was some a similar tzir like the picture you see the Rebbe standing in his talus. Every day Chol HaMoied, after davening, of course the Olam went Mivtzoyim. Mivtzo Lulav, Mivtzo Sukkot, whether we used to go to Manhattan on a Sukkah mobile, or they arranged us to go to old age homes, or to go to certain prisons locally. We all usually managed to go on Mivtzoyim, but it was all around the Rebbe. We had to go and come back from Menachem. There was a kids' rally one of the days, as you all know, with the Sukkim and the Sikhs, etc. But the whole Sukkos was always around the Mitzvah and the Yomim, and the Rebbe would stress a Mitzvah with Mitzvah Sukkah. Just to mention a few nekudas, some of you might have seen how much care, the videos, how much care the Rebbe took when it comes to the minhagim. Ever go to people do nanoim? How you do nanoim? Do very fast, chit chat. The Rebbe, we did the nanoim exactly, very slow, very perfect. Held the lulav together by his heart the whole time. The Lulav and Esrog together. Did all the nanoim, and afterwards was a shyness during the happening. One of the tziyurim that I remember by his shyness is that the Rebbe went around. The shyness behind the chazan. Normally chassidim do in 770. So the bochrim, we didn't do a shyness. We didn't go around. We didn't have a Lulav and Esrog. We didn't go around. But all the Yungelite and all the orchim who were there used to go around the bimah. The Rebbe would stand on top by his place, and he would wait and he would watch. Everybody went around. Sometimes it took 10, 15, 20 minutes. Everybody went around to do a shyness. Here's a famous picture that Rebbe put on glasses. It was a Shemini Atzeres, I think, one year that Rebbe put on glasses. He had his glasses on when he was reading in the Siddur, and he kept them on. So everybody saw the Rebbe walk around. Really, the Rebbe put on glasses in public. The Rebbe walked around his shyness with his glasses. Of course, one of the highlights of Sukkot was the nights, Simchas Hashieva. I want to describe to you something interesting about Simchas Hashieva, which you don't always see in the pictures and the videos. A highlight of Chol HaMoied for Klal Yisrael in the tri-state area was Lubavitch. Everybody came to Simchas Hashieva. There were almost as much Streimlach as there were downhats like we have by Simchas Hashieva. Not only that, many of these people came already to Maidev and the Sikh. The Sikhs by Simchas Hashieva that the Rebbe said every night of Sukkos was packed with Fremde Yidden. You know, people go on outings, Chol HaMoied, and Oisfug on Chol HaMoied. So the outings in those days on Chol HaMoied was to come to Lubavitch, the Lubavitch Rebbe for the Sikha on Simchas Beis HaSheva. Literally, it was packed jam. And then another thing interesting that I noticed was in the later years, they started to show, they put a big screen on outside and they would show videos from the Rebbe. Usually it was a piece of the Sikha that night, and then also a collection of videos of the Rebbe. I used to stand outside. Many of the Fremde Yidden, when they used to come, Yidden from like Borough Park, Williamsburg, and Flatbush, they wanted to know that they showed the video yet. That was the highlight of the Simchas Beis HaSheva, in addition to the dancing and the actual Simcha, was watching the video of the Rebbe. It gave everyone such a medidiki seidus and such a medidiki chizuk that everyone came specifically for that. I think we have to conclude now. Is that correct? Okay. Can you write it? You write it. And again, you're hearing this from me now, but I hope I'm trying to give you over the way we felt at the time. Then came the special day of Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah, Tillin the night before. 1 o'clock in the morning was Tillin. The Rebbe came into Tillin. Tillin was packed jam. 770 was packed a few times a year, from wall to wall mamish. You think I'm going to tell you Tkiyas, and you think I'm going to tell you Hakofis, but that's not what I'm going to tell you. They were packed, but wall to wall mamish that you can't move. Slichas, Motzei Shabbos, the first night of Slichas, 770 was packed, jammed wall to wall. And the Hoshana Rabbah Tillin, Fremde Yidden came with Slichas at the Hoshana Rabbah Tillin. It's a very special day. It's the end of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, as a Chassidus in Kabbalah. 770 was literally packed from wall to wall. The Rebbe would come in to say Tillin. Sometimes the Rebbe came in with an old Tillin Yahal, from the Simchat Torah, an old print. The Rebbe would say Tillin from that Tillin many times. And the Rebbe would say Tillin at 1 o'clock in the morning till about 2:30. Then the Rebbe spoke one year that the Minig Yisrael with the Gaboyim give out apples and honey after Tillin. So afterwards, everybody would go up to the Sukkah in 770, and the Gaboyim would be giving out apples and honey. This was the night before. Remember, we were going to sleep every night very late. And the next morning, Shachris. Shachris the Hoshana Rabbah. Here's a picture of the Rebbe coming, I believe, from his house to 770 in the morning with the Hoshanas ready for davening. The Rebbe would come at Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah was a much longer davening. Kapparos was 7 times. And then the Olam clapped the Hoshanas. And then the Rebbe used to give lekach. What's the pshat? Why did the Rebbe give lekach to Hoshana Rabbah? As we just said, that Hoshana Rabbah is very much connected to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So anyone who missed to get the lekach out of Yom Kippur by the Rebbe's room, they had an opportunity, the orchim that came for Sukkos, to get lekach by the Sukkah and the Hoshana Rabbah. Most of the years that I came to the Rebbe, I got lekach by the Rebbe's Sukkah. The picture that you saw before was a chidush, that I was there ready for Yom Kippur and I got lekach by the Rebbe's room. Most years I got lekach by the Rebbe's Sukkah. The Rebbe would stand by the Sukkah and he would give lekach. In the later years, I was never zeicher to be there. They built a Sukkah in Rabbi Groner's office, turned into a Sukkah for the Rebbe. I don't know if you know this. They cut a hole in the roof. Where did the Rebbe eat every day? Sukkahs? So this was the Sukkah outside. So sometimes the Rebbe would go into this Sukkah. But the Rebbe had another private Sukkah next to his room where the Rebbe would used to eat, but no one would know where the Rebbe is, when the Rebbe is in the Sukkah, when not. So they had a private Sukkah in the driveway. In the later years, Rabbi Groner's office turned into the Rebbe's Sukkah. They cut a hole in the roof and they put schach down, and that became the Rebbe's Sukkah. A nice room became the Rebbe's Sukkah. The Rebbe gave lekach there. I never saw, I was never there, because I always got lekach before Yom Kippur. But the Rebbe would stand there and the Rebbe would give lekach. For a long time, the Rebbe would give lekach. Actually, once there was, I think, a Hoshana Rabbah or Shemini Atzeres, I don't remember. I come to 770, Rabbi Harlock is standing as if he a soldier outside of the big Sukkah outside in the afternoon. And the covering, the Rebbe's Sukkah has a covering, it was opened. It was never opened. I'm like, what's going on here? There's nobody there. He's standing there. The Rebbe's in the Sukkah. I'm like, what? Yeah, the Rebbe came out. He said he wants to make a relation about Sukkah and the Sukkah. And the Rebbe went out to this Sukkah. Nobody was there. The Rebbe went into the Sukkah for a few minutes, ate a shtick with the and then the Rebbe went back into his room. So the Rebbe was in the Sukkah. Hoshana Rabbah was also a day that the kids had the Sukkos to bench Esrog on the Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog. The Rebbe's Lulav and Esrog was only for adults and men. Every day, kids were not allowed to bench the Rebbe's Esrog, even on the other days of Yom Tov. We don't have time to go through the halachas. But on the Hoshana Rabbah, after the Rebbe benched, the Rebbe didn't bench anymore. After all the men benched, then the ladies were allowed to bench. They gave it to one of the women who used to hold Lulav and Esrog. And then kids were also able to bench. One day a year, the kids were able to bench Lulav on the Rebbe's esrog. As a kid growing up, I didn't even chap. My father never was makpid on the kids benching his esrog, and I was always thinking, why? Because he never benched on his own esrog. We always benched, the adults bench on the Rebbe's esrog. So the esrog was for the kids. Everyone was able to bench even on the first day, because we always benched on the Rebbe's esrog. Some years the Rebbe's esrog was brown, literally, from so many people. It's even a letter from the Rebbe. Someone asked the Rebbe's esrog is not so mehudim now, right? So many people touch the esrog, it loses, so to speak, some of the hiddur. And the Rebbe said the biggest hiddur on an esrog is that so many Yidden benched on this esrog, even though it lost some of its gashmiistic physical beauty, which is also, by the way, a lesson for us that when you come to Tzoyim, you don't have to worry that your esrog might not be 100% mehudim after so many Yidden bench on your esrog. No, that's the hiddur of your esrog. The hiddur of your esrog is that so many Yidden benched on your esrog. Be careful with the pitr, that's all. Shouldn't break. I remember once the Rebbe's esrog, in the middle of benching on Yom Tov, somebody dropped and the pit broke. Rebbe Harlik had to go. The mayor went and knocked on the Rebbe's sukkah and told the Rebbe, it happened years before, but in my years also, and told the Rebbe that the esrog was not kosher, and the Rebbe had to go and give him another esrog. The Rebbe had a few esrog, and the Rebbe gave him another esrog for the Rebbe to bench. Shemini Atzeres Simchas Torah. No, what to say about Shemini Atzeres Simchas Torah? Shemini Atzeres Simchas Torah was the highlight and climax of Gans Tishrei. Shemini Atzeres Simchas Torah is indescribable. The Rebbe dancing with the hakofis. I mean, we don't have much time, so I'm just going to spend mamish 5 minutes because we can describe every single aktarisa and every single hakofa. First of all, 770 was emptied out. Shemini Atzeres, Hoshana Rabbah in the afternoon. Everybody had to leave. They had to set up the shul for Simchas Torah. They would set up the ches in the middle. They would elevate the ches. It wasn't a full bimah, but they would put like a little stage with a ramp. They would put in the middle of 770. So when the Rebbe danced with the Rashag and later himself, it was a little bit higher. And in the later years, they even put one of the Rebbe's bimis on top of that, and the Rebbe danced on that in the middle of the shul. It's impossible to describe. And then they would open the shul a few minutes before the Zman, before the Shkia, and everybody would file in and chap their place for hakofis. Everybody had places for hakofis. I was Zoiche Baruch Hashem. I believe the way it started was that a few of our parents had places mamish next to the Rebbe in the front. After Tov Shema Ches, when the Rebbe needed more ear, so they put tables there and they moved everybody back. So all the people that had places standing next to the Rebbe had to be behind the tables. No, so when we became children old enough to come to our office, so where did we go? On those tables. So my place ended up, mamish, on the tables next to the Rebbe's bimah. When the Rebbe went for our office, we had to jump up. So I was mamish very close to the Rebbe, Simchas Torah in the front. I heard all the Aktaresos, Baruch Hashem. In fact, people don't even know this. After every Aktareso, what's a minik in all the shuls, in the Lubavitch shuls, we sing a nigun, right? So the hakofis, the Rebbe didn't start the nigunim. There's some years there was even a piece of paper which nigunim to sing by every one of the 7 hakofis. But after Aktareso, the Rebbe started the nigunim. Every single Aktareso, the Rebbe used to turn around, everyone would wait, and the Rebbe would start singing the nigunim. He would sing Allah Salahoch, he would sing Zoshen Zayn Digula, the Rebbe would sing the thing, the Rebbe would sing Faratsto. There were different nigunim that the Rebbe used to sing after Aktareso. To me, I wouldn't miss that for anything. To hear the Rebbe start those nigunim still gives me chayes today. Comes Aktareso, after Aktareso, I just envision the Rebbe turning around, the Rebbe would turn around, already clapping with his hands. But the real Lebedekeit of Simchas Torah began by Ma'ariv. There's a famous nigun that we used to sing every year when the Rebbe came into Ma'ariv. Simchas Torah nigun when the Rebbe came into Ma'ariv and came into hakofis. The Rebbe would come into Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv was usually around these days around 7 o'clock, depending on the year, and that's when hakofis started. The Rebbe would come in. Usually, if you take a look at the video, the Rebbe would make with his hand, right? Sometimes he would turn around even once. Here the Rebbe would put down his siddur, and turn around like a hakofah. And the Rebbe would dance like a hakofah mamish. By this nigun. That's how Lebedik it was. Then after Ma'ariv, again they sang the nigun and the Rebbe left. Actually a Tovshinun base. The Rebbe said a sicher, Shemini Atzeres, after Ma'ariv. No one expected a sicher. Everybody was already out the door to go make kiddush and then come back for hakofas. The Rebbe turned around and started saying a sikha. I was not standing on the bottom of the Rebbe. I was looking up. The Rebbe started, I think they said, started the sikha as Gabbai is like Shemini Atzeres. The Gabbai announced the Seder. I want you to go make kiddush. So the Rebbe started off that Gabbai is like Shemini. And then the Gabbai says to make kiddush, and then the Rebbe said, gave brachas with the whole olive base, all the way down. So I remember, what happens? Everybody comes running to the front to hear the sikha. So the Rebbe waited till everybody calmed down. He started the sikha again. Same thing, the Rebbe started the sikha again. The Rebbe spoke very loud. You were able to hear the Rebbe stuff Shemini base. You able to hear the Rebbe in half of 770 when the Rebbe said the sikha. Then 9 o'clock was Akofis. I want to say that 9 o'clock by the Rebbe was Akofis. Everyone went home to the sukkah upstairs. There's famous stories of different chassidim where they used to fabrein in which sukkah between Ma'ariv and Akofis, and then the Olam would come back. The Olam would come back for Akofis at 9 o'clock. The Rebbe would come with Akofis. Akofis was, I mean, there's no time to describe it. The Rebbe would come in. There were Ataresos. The Rebbe said the psukim, the first Ataresos Simchas Torah, with the Nigun, and then they started the niggin in between, and then the Rebbe went to dance with the Hakofis. I just want to tell you one thing that I was zeicher to be by Hakofis, Tovim and Aleph. Now I think my first Simchas Torah that I remember. I'll tell you 2 short stories and then I'll finish with that. Tovim and Aleph, the Rebbe said a sikha in the middle of Hakofis, and then the Rebbe said he wants all the kids to go to a Hakofa, and the Rebbe is going to join the Hakofa. And the Rebbe went an extra Hakofa both nights, Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, in addition to the first and the 7th. Let me describe to you this. The Rebbe said all the kids on the bar mitzvah should go to the sarcophagus. Can you imagine what was going on in 770? Just try to imagine. Hundreds of kids without their parents being sent to the middle of 770 for the Rebbe's sarcophagus. First of all, they had to clear men out around the ches, around the bimah. They just cleared everybody out and they put the kids there. I think even the Rebbe saw someone over bar mitzvah in the middle by the kofa and the Rebbe told him to leave. And then the Rebbe came with the Sefer Torah. I remember I was a kid. I was thrown around when I was like, and the Rebbe was standing there with the Sefer Torah. This picture you see here, but this is not a good enough picture. Singing Utzuetz from Sufar. I still remember until today the niggin they were singing, and the Rebbe's face was glowing. Sometimes you read about it and you question, what does it mean? The Rebbe's face was glowing. I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling you, the Rebbe's face was glowing, was shining with the kinder. The next year, the Rebbe also made our coffers with the kids, but the Rebbe didn't go. The Rebbe said last year was a big balagan, so the Rebbe said the kids should go with their parents. Earlier than that, by the Rebbe's Akofah, or the 1st or the 7th, I was a kid. I had to go out. How do you go to the bathroom in the middle of Akofah? You can't. It's packed. By the Rebbe's Akofah, everybody jumped up on the tables. I look around, the floor is empty. I left. I went to the bathroom. By the time I came back, the Rebbe was already back in his place. Can you imagine thinking a little kid come out, the walls of people, but I have to go back. What's your name? Schapiro. Where's Schapiro? Over there, over there. Okay, what happens in 770? They picked me up. They started handing me from person to person. I still remember this. It's of Shemini Atzeres. This part that I'm going to tell you, I don't remember. I'll tell you this story and one more story. The Rebbe pointed to me and he told me to start a niggin. Find on a niggin. I was like one kid that had everybody been thrown. Obviously, I didn't even realize I didn't start it. But the Rebbe asked me to start a niggin. At the end of our conference, Olenu. It's a single Olenu by the Rebbe. The kids say this with single Olenu. I'm sitting there with my friends and my brother. I think I was there alone. My brothers weren't there that year. Sitting there on the tables there, the boards they put there. And the Rebbe turns around. He goes like this. Steht sich. I ignored the Rebbe. Then he's calling me. 2 minutes later, the Rebbe turns around again. Once again, come here. I didn't do anything. Then the Rebbe turned to Rabbi Groner and he said, those kids over there, I want them to sit next to me on my divan at the end of the avenue. So all of us kids, we got up and we sat around the Rebbe. Could you imagine the Rebbe called us kids over to him, those who were in the front, and we sat around the Rebbe till the end of the avenue. Some kids pushed. I remember walked over to the Rebbe and gave the Rebbe Shalom Aleichem. Kids, the Rebbe was like so, I don't want to use the word, but I will, so heimish, that hakafis with the kids. The pusher went over to the, I didn't, they went over to the Rebbe. I remember the Rebbe big Shalom Aleichem, one kid, another kid, Shana Aleichem. They give them a Shalom Aleichem, which was not our minute. We don't give Shalom to the Rebbe at all. But the kids were like in such a matzav, they said this, you can't even describe it. And the Rebbe was so close and loving to the kids, it was something that's unbelievable. This is not just zichrenis that I'm telling you. For me, I'm reliving it now, as you can tell. But for us Chassidim, it's important. The Friedrich Rebbe writes this, that these zichrenis that you have, that your parents have, that you hear from your teachers, and from your mashpiyim, hopefully will give us the chizik, give us the chayes, to be able also to take some of this and to internalize it, some of it into our lives. That we should be able also to live Tishrei, so 11 Tishrei with the Rebbe, to live Tishrei with the Rebbe. And Zicher Zachetz, for sure, I'm certain that just by listening and taking the achlota that this year, we're certainly going to have a different style of Tishrei on a higher madrege. Hashem will certainly listen to our tefillas and be Kapparos. We're all going to have a chsim and a gmar chsim and teva, and a shona teva and Sukkot, and certainly bring Mashiach Tzidkenu, that we should be able to spend this Yom Kippur already, begashmius, with the Rebbe, the Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, a gmar chsim and teva.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Schapiro. And Shekerech also to Rabbi Leibel Cohen for everything that you do. And once again, Shekerech to all the talmidim and all the talmidim around the United States. And Taka may we be zeichet that this Yom Kippur, this Sukkos may be spent with the Rebbe and with Marsim Mateva for everyone.